Hey everyone, so this is going to be the last introductory video into binary cognitive mechanics. There are probably going to be more videos in the future, but this is just going to be the cutoff right now for what we have, just introducing the concepts and the terms. So let's get started. So, okay, binary cognitive mechanics. Why should I care about binary cognitive mechanics, and how does it change typology? And this hopefully is what this video is going to answer. What we can actually, because if you're already in typology, you've already drank the Kool-Aid, you're already saying, okay, yeah, people have patterns and we can look at their patterns. So then why do I care? Why am I trying to prove that that any of this stuff is real? So this is going to be an extension to what we already know in typology, and it's going to add way more concepts and things for you guys to figure out. And so this is kind of why the mannerisms is kind of why we should care about binary cognitive mechanics. Okay. So the mannerisms, first of all, are just nicknames for the combination of an approach and an orientation. So we've got an approach and we've got an orientation. So let's look, for example, let's take explicit and introverted. So explicit and introverted together, introverted explicit is over here, and we call that exacting, right? So the exacting is just the nickname for this. It just makes it a little bit easier to sort of, when you get into more complex dynamics, it's harder to keep these terms separate, what they mean together. So just find a term about what they mean together, and then you can sort of work better. So it's just new, smaller blocks for your typology Lego set. Okay. So really the model that we're going to look at right now is on merging information when we're trying to combine information. So here we're doing delta on this video because it's the fourth video and we did alpha, beta, gamma. So here's the delta. So we'll see that this is the model that we had in video one, sort of reorganized a little bit just to make it easier. We've got the NE is internalizing and extroverted, right? FI is internalizing and introverted, right? Externalizing and introverted, and externalizing and extroverted, right? So here we have, okay, high entropy intellectual computation, right? Because it's NT, this is going to be intellectual, right? And this is high entropy, internalizing implicit, right? And so when we give the mannerism names to this stuff, it's just a nickname. So, and they might change, but so really what this is this computation, and we're just nicknaming it. Okay, this is consensus. NE is looking for some kind of consensus, and TE is kind of looking for some kind of consensus. Okay, this is uncovering. It's internalizing the unseen. It's looking for surprise in what it doesn't see, right? So we call that uncovering. Okay, and then here we have preference. It's experiential and low entropy computation. So what are you computing when it's very low entropy and it's experience? It's your experience. So yeah, you're ironing over experiences, you're revising your experiences, all that kind of stuff. But we call it preference because that's really what pops out of here. And you see SI and FI both have some kind of preference, even when they're in separate forms, right? And then here we have implementation, externalizing the explicit. Okay. So these are great. This is okay. What do you do with this? What's the point? Why are we even bothering, right? And so if you want to look at what NE is, it's not just what it has in common with TE. It also has things in common with other things. So if you add up everything that it has in common, then you get what NE kind of is. So it's also high entropy implicit computation, right? This is also implicit. So the high entropy side is intellectual and implicit. And the internalizing side is intellectual and implicit, right? And so all together, this is what NE is doing. It's consensus, associative, analyzing, uncovering. And so if you want to add all of the mannerisms onto the table here, so FI is doing all of these things, right? SI is doing all of these things. TE is doing all of these things. And now if you want to start looking at complex behaviors like the animals, right? The animals is a more complex behavior. So let's take seeking, for example, consume, right? So consume is just the FI and the NE, right? So let's get rid of everything that's not FI and NE from the board. Okay. And now we could start looking at what uncovering seeking in the seeking form is, what this consume is, right? So you have uncovering, that's the main one, but then you're balancing all of these things, right? You're balancing high entropy with low entropy, right? When you're doing consume, you've got the internalizing here, the low entropy here, and the high entropy here, right? So you can look at it just on the internalizing side. So intellectual versus experiential. It's acquisition versus analyzing. So trying to analyze and acquire, analyze, acquire. You could look at it on the high entropy side, but this is implicit. Both of them are implicit, right? Essential and associative, right? And so any combination of these mannerisms, you can start looking at more of what the behavior is going on. It's trying to balance these two sides when you're doing that animal, right? These are two things that are somewhat opposite. And so merging them together is creating a behavior, right? Creating some kind of behavior to merge it together. And we'll talk about a little bit more about what that means. So here's just for all of the mannerisms so you can see. And this is just the delta, right? So the delta here is what we have here. So if you want to see what any two functions have in common, this is another reason this table is kind of useful. So what do any two functions have in common? It's right here. These is what they have in common. And then how are they different is here, right? And this is, I guess we call this the umbrella. And the umbrella is sort of what's holding the behavior together. And then this is kind of what the umbrella is trying to merge, make these two things match in order for the behavior to come out. And so each one of these is a different behavior. You can mix and match them. You get all kinds of different behaviors. And so let me just show you one of the behaviors that I was seeing that was popping out. Now, I'm not going to go into proving it, but it's the idea of beauty versus solutions. So first thing I did was, okay, so I had a whole bunch of different tables, but this is just one of the tables. And I'm not going to explain exactly how I was seeing it, but what I was seeing is creativity is required to merge these two. Form is basically is explicit and implicit, and substance is experience. So to merge implicit and explicit, you had to have some kind of creativity, right? And then to merge experience and intellectual, you had to sort of do some kind of problem solving, right? And so that's kind of what's required to merge. So creativity and problem solving. And then I was thinking, okay, well, if there's creativity, then that must extend to beauty. Like there must be a different form of beauty for each of these. And sure enough, that's kind of what happened. So so let's start about the problem solving. Let's start there. So it's pretty easy to see what ST is trying to problem solve, right? It's trying to do thinking and sensory, just very dry problems, just solve practical logistical problems, right? But then what I was surprised about is, okay, what was standing out here was the NF problem solving. And I never thought about NF as a problem solving combination. But sure enough, looking at it a little bit, you see, yeah, there's a lot of NF problem solving. So it was really interesting to me. And I'm still really looking into what kind of problems you can solve with NF. But they're very implicit problems. They're not explicit problems, right? Okay, and then in beauty, I just asked ChatGPT to give me some info about what the different kinds of beauty are. And I framed it in a way that popped out the cognitive functions. So we'll just read this first one. Yes, you're correct. Intuitive beauty can indeed be related to intellectual beauty, which is often detached. Like this is the exact wording that I had from sensory and emotional experience. Sensory and emotional experience. What? In this sense, intuitive beauty refers to a type of beauty that is found in abstract concepts and ideas, such as those found in mathematics, philosophy, and theoretical sciences. Right? So it's like, okay, yeah, this is kind of real. ChatGPT is looking at the collective unconscious of all of the internet, and it's giving me back, okay, humans kind of actually realize this already. So this is widely considered the most beautiful equation in mathematics, right? The most beautiful thing of mathematics. And you look at it in the SF, it's not very beautiful. Like he tattooed it on his back. That's kind of not, I mean, that's not beautiful. But the NT of it is very beautiful if you get into the mathematics. And then here, so it's all about balancing the implicit and the explicit. And here as well, here's a really good way to sort of demonstrate how it's balancing implicit and explicit. So we'll start here, like, okay, just on the surface level, right? On the explicit level, okay, it's two old people. You see that all the time. But what's implied here, right? Anyone who's seen this movie Up, there's a lot of implications going on here about their life and their emotions and what they've been through. And it's actually a very beautiful love that they have together. But you need both sides, right? And then here too, you've got this flower, and the beauty of the flower is in how delicate it is, and the implication of there's lots of implication in how delicate things are, and how, I don't know, things that are delicate tend to be more beautiful for some reason. So this, I haven't seen this movie, but I know this scene is supposed to be pretty beautiful, just from my spectrum knowledge. And so the beauty in this scene is, I guess, he's going to sacrifice his life for her, and there's a lot of beauty in there. And so it's not just explicit, okay, he's dying. Death is very ugly. It's very disgusting. But the beauty in the death is there's a meaning in the death. And so there's an implied part of it, right? This, I don't even know how to begin to explain why this is beautiful. You can ask all of the deltas. The deltas really like this kind of thing. So here's like it's a more explicit way to talk about beauty, because like the implicit is actually very explicit. Like it's implying something, but you can see what it's implying visually. So like the lines themselves aren't really beautiful. They only get the beauty because the fact that they're implying there's a shape, there's something here, right? It's that dance between the shadow and the light. And then here as well, this is obviously babies are very SF cute, but the beauty in the baby, I guess, comes more from what's implied. So yeah, there isn't an emotional side to it, and then there is a sensory side. So it does stir our emotions, babies, right? But the implied thing here is more potential. So you see that a lot. It's not just in babies, but whenever you see a lot of potential in something, there's a beauty there, right? Okay, so now let's talk about what Richard Feynman is talking about. So he did a good little lecture here on beauty. So let's just let him talk instead.
I have a friend who's an artist, and he's sometimes taken a view which I don't agree with very well. He'll hold up a flower and say, "Look how beautiful it is," and I'll agree, I think. And he says, "You see, as I as an artist can see how beautiful this is, but you as a scientist, take this all apart and it becomes dull thing." And I think that he's kind of nutty. First of all, the beauty that he sees is available to other people, and to me too. I believe, although I may not be quite as refined as aesthetically as he is, that I can appreciate the beauty of a flower. At the same time, I see much more about the flower than he sees. I could imagine the cells in there, the complicated actions inside, which also have a beauty. I mean, it's not just beauty at this dimension of 1 centimeter. There's also beauty at a smaller dimensions. The inner structure, also the processes, the fact that the colors and the flower evolved in order to attract insects to pollinate it is interesting. It means that insects can see the color. It adds a question. Does this aesthetic sense also exist in the lower forms? Why is it aesthetic? All kinds of interesting questions which the science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower. It only adds. I don't understand how it subtracts.
Yeah. So kind of a good talk there about processing the difference between NT versus SF beauty. And yeah, so that's kind of how the mannerisms can be used. So they are like a very valuable tool. And that's what it adds to typology. So thanks for watching. I hope you made it through the series, and stay tuned for more stuff. This is just the intro, but yeah, we're really excited about everything that's coming from this. Okay, have a good one, everyone.